All right, let's just dive right in. There's this hidden game that pretty much governs our lives. It directs our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, everything. It's called the status game. And here's the kicker. Whether you know it or not, you're playing it right now.
So just how powerful is this game? Well, to really wrap our heads around it, let's start with a bit of a mystery. It's the true story of a man named Ben Gunn. And after 30, that's 30, long years behind bars, he was finally offered his freedom. And he actually said no.
So, Ben's story. Man, it started at the absolute lowest point you can imagine. At just 14 years old, he was convicted of killing another boy. And when he entered the prison system, he was at the very, very bottom of the social ladder. I mean, in the eyes of society, and even inside the prison, he was considered less than nothing.
And those first few years, they were just a complete nightmare. He was stripped of all dignity, all status, and he just spiraled. He felt so utterly worthless that he even tried to starve himself to death. He had no rank, no identity. Really, he had no game to play.
But then, something almost unbelievable happened. A second act begins. A visiting teacher, a woman named Alex, fell in love with him. And just like that, a whole new life was on the table. We're talking a storybook ending, right? Love, freedom, a quiet cottage in the country. All he had to do was keep his nose clean and accept parole when it came up.
And this is where the story gets really, really strange. Faced with this incredible, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Ben told Alex he wanted to stay in prison. So the question is why? I mean, what on earth could possibly be more valuable inside those walls than a life of freedom and love on the outside?
Well, the answer to Ben's paradox is actually the key to understanding so much of human behavior. See, he wasn't really choosing prison over freedom. No, he was choosing one status game over another.
And this really lays out his dilemma perfectly. Look, inside prison, Ben had completely transformed himself over the decades. He'd earned a master's degree, he'd become this respected jailhouse lawyer. He was a somebody. But on the outside, he knew he'd just be another ex-con, a nobody. So, he made a choice. He chose to be a big fish in a small pond over being a tiny, insignificant fish in a massive ocean.
Okay, so here's the really important part. Ben's choice, it reveals this fundamental truth about all of us. We are all hardwired to play the status game. It's this deep, evolutionary drive to find a group and then to find our place and rank within that group. I mean, think about it. For our ancient ancestors, higher status meant better food, safer shelter, more chances to have kids. Our brains are basically still running on that same ancient software.
And believe me, we play this game everywhere. The office you work in, that's a status game. Your own family? Yep, it's got its own status game. Politics, religion, even the hobbies you do for fun. They are all just different arenas where we're competing for connection and rank, and a lot of the time, we don't even realize we're doing it.
Okay, so if we've established that we're all playing this game, the next logical question is, what are the rules? Well, it turns out there are three basic ways to play, three fundamental ways to gain status.
So, first up, you've got dominance. This is pretty straightforward. You gain status by taking it through force or fear. Think of a tyrannical boss or a street gang. Then there's the virtue game. Here, you're given status for being a good, moral, dutiful person who follows the group's rules. A religious order is a great example. And finally, you have the success game, where you earn status through your skills, your competence, your innovation. Think of a top sports team or a groundbreaking tech company. Now, most situations are a mix, but usually one of these styles is going to be the main one.
You know, when you really think about it, the story of human civilization is basically the story of which one of these games we choose to play. And probably our biggest leap forward as a species happened when we shifted away from one game and basically invented two brand new ones.
See, for millions of years, our ancient ancestors played by one rule: dominance. The strongest, most aggressive one was in charge. Simple. But as we evolved, something changed. Cooperation. That became our superpower. Groups figured out that if they worked together, they were stronger. They started punishing individuals who were too violent, and all of a sudden, status wasn't something you could just take anymore. It had to be earned based on your reputation. This was a revolution. This was the birth of prestige.
And we figured out there were two main ways to earn this new kind of status. You could gain prestige through success, being a really skilled hunter, a great storyteller, or a clever innovator. Or you could gain it through virtue, by being someone who was generous, courageous, and really lived by the group's most important values. And honestly, these two paths are what allowed us to build everything we have, from the smallest tribes to the massive cities we live in today.
So, that's all ancient history, right? How does it all play out today? Well, these games are running everywhere. But let's zoom in on two of the biggest arenas we have, the modern workplace and, of course, the wild world of social media.
So, a success game, like a company that's all about innovation, can be incredibly powerful and productive. But it can also get corrupted. Just look at the infamous case of Enron. They had this system called rank and yank, where every employee was constantly ranked against their peers, and the bottom chunk was just fired, period. What this did was it turned a game about being competent into a brutal, zero-sum game of dominance. It forced people to cheat and backstab each other just to keep their jobs. And the result? Complete and total collapse.
And then there's the newest game in town. It's maybe the most addictive status game ever invented. Social media has been called a slot machine for status. And that's not just a clever line. It's not just a way to talk to friends. It's a machine that's been perfectly engineered to plug directly into that ancient, deep-seated need we all have for status.
I mean, think about it. Every single like, every follow, every notification, each one is like a tiny little dose of symbolic status. They're what you might call micro-suasions, and they give us instant feedback on where we stand socially. This creates this incredibly powerful feedback loop that just keeps us coming back for more, tweaking what we say and do to get a better score in a game that, frankly, never, ever ends. So where does this leave us? What's the big takeaway here? Look, understanding the status game isn't about saying it's good or bad. It's about seeing it. It's about recognizing it's being played. Because the second you can see the game, you can start making conscious choices about how you want to play.
So here's a simple little toolkit you can take with you. Use it in any meeting, at a family dinner, wherever. Ask yourself 3 things. 1. Identify the currency. How is status being won here? Is it through fear, a dominance game, through morality, a virtue game, or through skill, a success game? 2. Watch the leaders. Are people in charge feared, or are they admired? That tells you a lot. And 3. Know the goal. Is the whole point of this group to get everyone to conform and comply, or is it to innovate and achieve great things?
At the end of the day, you can't just opt out. The status game is just part of being human. But by understanding the rules, who the players are, and what the prizes are, you suddenly gain the power to choose your strategy. You get to decide which games are actually worth your time, and you get to decide what kind of player you're going to be. So the only real question left is, what game will you play?